Well, good morning and welcome to Northern Light Spiritual Center. Northern Light Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. My name is Reverend Mykal Amaré, and I am the co-minister with Reverend Mykal Amaré. The founding minister, Reverend Pamela Grace Beatty, is not here at the moment, but she set everything up and got this whole enterprise into place and moving. So thank you very much. I'm glad to see we have two people here today, and we have one person so far on Zoom. Welcome, and glad you're here. Please join me if you like or be sung to for our opening song in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. Your spirit, sweet spirit, is in this very room. In this very room. So for today's meditation, what I'm going to invite is for people to freely associate as the music goes on. And the free association is to let come into mind, and on a rotating basis if you like that, or if you want to sit with a particular presence. People in our lives who have taught us and modeled and inspired the notion of what it is to be free. So I invite us to just settle into our seats. Just become aware of our breath. Now I want to put your hand on your solar plexus, where the air expands, rises and falls. Simply be present and aware of that breath coming in and out. How the body is designed for that exchange. For that well-being to fill us up. And as mentioned, allow ourselves to open our minds and our hearts to the various people who have inspired with the experiences of freedom. These do not need to be people that we have known directly or personally. There may be a direct lesson that they offered. There may be an image that we remember. Where freedom was expressed and it impressed itself upon us. And the nature of how this freedom got expressed can vary. The diversity is unnameable. So perhaps it's petals falling.
Remember that magical afternoon the whole family spent tweeting and texting? Nah, didn't think.
Sorry about that interruption. So petals falling from springtime flowers, clouds ahead, dancers leaping or in practice, a child playing on a field, a falling star, just open our minds and our hearts to those images and experiences, those impressions of freedom. And as these various images arise, as these various people appear in our minds and our hearts, imagine them as members in our own personal galleries or hallways of freedom. Imagine that we dedicate and celebrate their inspiration. We can construct these galleries in any way, shape, or form that we want. And these galleries are places that we can revisit at any time. And these galleries are inexhaustible in that they can continue to to expand. So as new images and new people and new beings make themselves known to us, we can invite them to inhabit those galleries. And we can choose to attend at any time. Anytime we feel trapped or closed in or shut down. Our galleries of freedom. Our galleries of freedom are accessible. So allow ourselves to just come back from those galleries that we have established, come back to this room. Breathing in and breathing out. And as we are ready, open your eyes and become present here and now. And so it is.
No, go ahead. You can start it. Tell me when it gets to 4.
Oh, to 4?
Yeah.
3, 4.
Am not black. I mean, that's what the world calls me, but it's not me. I didn't come out of my mother's womb saying, hey everybody, I'm black. No, I was taught to be black. And you were taught to call me that, along with whatever you call yourself. It's just a label. See, from birth, the world force feeds us these labels. And eventually, we all swallow them. We digest and accept the labels, never, ever doubting them. But there's one problem. Labels are not you, and labels are not me. Labels are just labels. But who we truly are is not skin deep. See, when I drive my car, no one would ever confuse the car for me. Well, when I drive why do you confuse me for my body? It's my body. Get it? Not me. Let me break it down. See, our bodies are just cars that we operate and drive around. The dealership we call society decided to label mine the black edition, yours the Irish or white edition. And with no money down, 0% APR, and no test drive, we were forced to own these cars for the rest of our lives. Forgive me, but I fail to see the logic or pride in defining myself or judging another by the cars we drive. Because who we truly are is found inside. Listen, I'm not here to tell you how science has concluded that genetically we're all mixed and race in the human species doesn't exist, or how every historian knows that race was invented in the 15th century to divide people from each other and it has worked perfectly. No, I'm not here to lecture. I just want to ask one question. Who would you be if the world never gave you a label? Never gave you a box to check? Would you be white, black, Mexican, Asian, Native American, Middle Eastern, Indian? No. We would be one. We would be together. No longer living in the era of calling human beings black people or white people. These labels that will forever blind us from seeing a person for who they are. Seeing them through the judgmental, prejudicial, artificial filters of who we think they are. And when you let an artificial label define yourself, then my friend, you have chosen smallness, greatness, and minimized yourself, confined and divided yourself from others. And it is an undeniable fact that where there is division, there will be conflict, and conflict starts with wars. Therefore, every war has started over labels. It's always us versus them. So the answer to war, racism, sexism, and every other ism is so simple that every politician has missed it. It's the labels. We must rip them off. Isn't it funny how no baby is born racist, yet every baby cries when they hear the cries of another? No matter the gender, culture, or color, proving that deep down we were meant to connect and care for each other. That is our mission, and that is not my opinion. That is the truth. In a world that has sold us fiction, please listen. Labels only distort our vision, which is why half of those watching this will dismiss it or feel resistance and conflicted. But just remember, so did the caterpillar before it broke through its shell and became the magnificent butterfly. Well, these labels are our shells, and we must do the same thing so we can finally spread our wings. Human beings were not meant to be slapped with labels like groceries and supermarkets. DNA cannot be regulated by the FDA. We were meant to be free, and only until we remove them all and stop living and thinking so small will we be free to see ourselves and each other for who we truly are. Hey,
So that was the reading this week, and we just thought it was a powerful way to think about the world. And we can send that out, or I shouldn't say we. Mykal will send it out, because Mykal does all of that work. Please join me for this month's affirmation song. So this is about unbridling ourselves and opening to greater freedom. Will I shake off the chains of my fears? Will I shake off the chains of my worries? Will I shake off the chains of my tears? Will I shake off the chains of my hurries? I look to my freedom within, my union with all of creation. I rise like my freedom within. I open to freedom's elation. I am free. How will you? Will you shake off the chains of your fears? Will you shake off the chains of your worries? Will you shake off the chains of your tears? Will you shake off the chains of your hurries? You look to your freedom within, your union with all of creation. You rise like your freedom within. You open to freedom's elation. You are free. Now will we shake off the chains of our fears? Will we shake off the chains of our worries? Will we shake off the chains of our tears? Will we shake off the chains of our hurries? We look to our freedom within, our union with all of creation. We rise like our freedom within. We open to freedom's elation. We are free. Now will I shake off the chains of my fears? Will I shake off the chains of my worries? Will I shake off the chains of my tears? Will I shake off the chains of my worries? I look to my freedom within, my union with all of creation. I rise like my freedom within. I open to freedom's elation. I am free.
Reverend Mykal Amaré, and I always wanted to be a butterfly. You know, that song, people would ask sometimes, about, if you were reincarnated, what would you want to be? And I said, well, a butterfly. And they said, well, they have such short lives. And I said, well, yes, they're free and they're so beautiful. So until they stick you with a pin to a board, you are free. And so today's talk is it's a kind of a combination. Part of it is none of us are free until we all are free, and then the other part is like basically love thy neighbor. And Ernest Holmes said, "No greater good can come to you than to know that the power already within you is the power to live, the power to create. Not only to create for yourself, but for others." And I believe that's one of the reasons where we are put on this earth, and it's to love and to learn to love, and that's to learn to love not the intimate, romantic type of love, but that divine love. Learn to love each other in a way that we are connected, because we all are connected whether we like it or not. I know it really, sometimes it's really hard to think that I'm connected to so-and-so or so-and-so, and they probably think the same thing about me. But it's true. We are all connected with that what I like to say, that golden thread of love that flows in, through, and around us. In the Quran, it said, "And whoever saves a life is as though he had saved mankind." And I found that quote extremely moving, because we are to be the question is, am I my brother's keeper? In some sense, yes, you are. Yes, I am, and I believe that is true, that we need to share what we have. And sometimes that's only a very minor thing to us, but it can be a monumental thing to someone else. And in Leviticus, of course, it says, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." And neighbor doesn't just mean the person that lives next door to you or across the street. A neighbor can be anybody maybe you work with, you have somebody next to you, but just somebody that is connected to you somehow. Sometimes it's in the community, sometimes it's at work, like I said, and it's the idea that all these things can be little things. The quote from Ernest Holmes about creating for yourself and others, and then about saving. If you save one life, it's like you can already save mankind. All these things are like the butterfly effect, which in short is a very small change in initial conditions that can create significant different outcomes. Like when something happens, you do something, and for someone else, and in turn maybe they do something for someone else, and so on down the road. And finally, if we all did that in this beautiful world, or sometimes to accept that, the way things are sometimes, but it is a beautiful world. This earth, this universe is to me a fantastic thing, just like the human body. You think of the human body and all the little in whatever the word is.
Intricacies.
Yeah, that's it. Intricacies. You know, everything that it does, the brain, the heart, the veins, the bones, the tissue, everything is so fantastic and so beautiful. And so too is the whole universe. If you look around outside, the trees, and I was moaning and complaining about July-uary yesterday, and some people said, well, at least we're not getting smoke and fires. And I said, yeah, but I would like a little sun sometime too. But if you look around, and there is beauty even in the gloom, even in the fog. And got to be one of the most beautiful things. If you look at every individual around you, on the internet, on the wherever you're looking, each individual is an individual. We are all products of the divine, yet we are expressing that divine in our own individual way, which sometimes is really powerful. Actually, it's very powerful either way, whether it's for good or not so good. It's both of them are in very powerful ways. So this butterfly effect thing, if we do something kind, if we do something to support someone else, no matter what it may be, how little it may be, it can explode. A lot of times when people first come to Science of Mind, they say that they've come home. And I know some places like to say welcome home and this and that, but sometimes welcome home is not necessarily a good thing for some people. Right. Home was not necessarily a good thing sometimes for me. But then I read on, in the reading that I read, and it says, well, they have come home to a place they knew always existed in their hearts. And so for me, that's a big thing because I always knew that there was something greater. And I always questioned, like I grew up Lutheran, and, I think I don't know if they ever said they were one true religion, like Catholic Church did, I'm not sure, they probably did. But then I would question, well, why in the world are there all these other religions? I mean, there's hundreds of them, maybe thousands, I don't know. But then to realize that each religion has its purpose. Each person, they can believe what they choose to believe. Well, at least suppose you can believe what you choose to believe and follow the faith you choose to follow. So coming home to this, and that's a lot of times it is. When somebody asked about religious science, asked me about it, and sometimes I hem and haw because I try to pussyfoot around so I'm not stepping on their toes and this and that. But if we just share, what it is and what we believe. Finally, I had to do that one time. I used to work with, and he's probably still praying for me, which is good. He always said he was praying for me to find the right religion or right path. And so finally one day we did get in a conversation, and I was able to explain why I followed this path and exactly what we believed in. And so I actually felt a lot better about it instead of trying to pussyfoot around and make something up, or sometimes that's my path, that's my choice, which way to go. And so if we share this with others, then maybe it may not be good for everybody. I remember Reverend Kathy Ann Lewis saying one time at the Center for Spiritual Living, she would say, "We hope you make this your home, and if you don't," she said, "I hope you find a spiritual home." And that struck me because so many times you go to church and they want you there, but sometimes that place is not right for you. It's not right for me. It's not right for somebody else. So I was listening to Maya Angelou. I was looking up this. None of us are free until all of us are free. And there was a part in there, and she said something about we need to have the courage. And that courage is a virtue. And that if we don't have the courage, we're not going to be able to practice any of the virtues continuously. And the courage has to come not from the head, but from the heart. She was, that's she being Maya Angelou, sometimes sometimes I'll do that in a conversation. I'll be talking and I'll say she or he, and then Reverend Vaughn will go, who? And I'm getting a little better, right? But anyway, as a young girl, Maya Angelou suffered a life of torment and darkness that nearly stole her voice forever. At a young age, she was forced to endure intense physical and emotional abuse by a family member. As a result, she became mute for nearly 5 years. But with the help of a friend, Maya Angelou found her own voice again. She was introduced to Dickens, Shakespeare, Poe, and other prolific writers who would influence her personal and professional philosophies, propelling her to become a conduit of love because one person raised her up. I did not know that about Maya Angelou. And that's it. If one person that helped her and lifted her up, then why can't we lift others up? Sometimes I think a lot of I know a lot of our issues nowadays is fear. We don't want to do something because, there's fear involved. It seems like fear permeates every cell of our body sometimes, that we get so frozen in fear that we can't move forward. And the fear motivates most of the cruelties that we see around the world. And so why should we live in fear? I mean, reach out to another person. And yes, there is a fear right now with the COVID-19 that, you definitely have to keep your distance and wear your mask and all these things, yes. And fear is good. Fear has its points. Because if you don't have a certain sense of fear, then you're not going to look when you cross the street, and you could be, roadkill. So there is a certain amount of fear that is good. But for us to live in that fear, to live in that fear of other people, to live in fear of your neighbor. I may not sometimes like my neighbor or like what some of my neighbors do, but you can love them on a different level. Doesn't mean you have to invite them over to dinner. You don't have to, but to love your neighbor, to love your fellow human being. And when your fellow human being in a time of need, to reach out whatever we can and support them and lift them up. In Matthew, it's the idea of the disciples where they say, they also will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick, or in prison, and did not help you? When did we see that of you? We never saw that. I mean, that's what. And he replied, truly, I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of these, the least of these, you did not do for me. So in that case, like Jesus was saying, you didn't, you say you love, you say you care for it, but what are you doing for your fellow human being? And that brings up the idea that in today's world, it would say, so this is not always, I would say it anyway, but say, like, Lord, when did we enslave you? Gas you, remove you from your parents, any of the atrocities that we're doing today. And I look back at the histories of our country, of around the world, and we have done some horrific things to other human beings. So many times in the name of religion, in the name of, in fear. you become fearful of this other person, of this other group of people, and nothing seems to be able to change your mind. So when you have prevented anyone from living life and living it more abundantly, you have restricted the creative flow of God. You have stifled it, when you're restricting anyone access, say, to medical care, to assistance in whatever way they need. You're stifling the flow. And I see on the internet all these things going on, and it's sad to me that we have, we're people against each other. And the fires that are being fueled to create more of that, that is not loving your neighbor. That is pure hate and fear. And God knows what else is involved in that. So if somehow we can, there's a sign or a poster that I've seen on the internet, I've seen it go around many times, and I've actually shared it, and it's a thing about, it says, love thy neighbor, and then it says, thy homeless neighbor, thy Muslim neighbor, thy black neighbor, thy gay neighbor, thy white neighbor, thy Asian neighbor, thy Jewish neighbor, thy Christian neighbor, thy atheist neighbor, thy disabled neighbor, and thy addicted neighbor. And basically the whole thing is love thy neighbor that does not look like you, or does look like you, that doesn't think like you, or maybe does, or doesn't act like you. Because I don't think I'd want to be, although I wouldn't do any different, around if we all thought identically, if we all looked alike, if we all acted alike. I think it would be, to me, a little boring. But that's how this country was created, or established, or whatever you want to call it. People running from being oppressed, and what do we turn around and do? We become the oppressors, and that's what happens so many times. The oppressed become the oppressors. So, and the idea that God is love, and that extends to us because we are expressions of the divine. We are that love that God is. And it assures us that all creation is loving and lovable. Yes, all creation is loving and lovable. And those are some hard things to actually swallow, because there are some people which they seem like they could not be lovable. And the divine love is all inclusive. No one left out. Knowing this, we can expect fear and distrust to have no place in our neighborly relations. Wouldn't that be awesome if the idea, the fear was gone, the fear of another, fear of the other, because like in that video it said, it seems like it's always us and them, us and them. Why can't it be, all of us together instead of fighting each other? So the whole thing with loving your neighbor, I think that's one of the first things I learned in school. I went to Lutheran school, and of course we learned, all the commandments and all that good stuff. But to love one another as you, like the golden rule, do unto others as you would do on, you would have them do on you, or don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done unto you. You know, it could be either way. But look around, and if there's a place where you can assist somebody in the smallest form, it does not have to be a huge thing. Like I said earlier, that the huge thing it may be to that person or that group of people or whatever it may be. It could be for animals, you know. We don't go very far to see people that are suffering. You've got the prisons and detention centers. You've got the military. You've got single moms. You've got so many different people that are in need and that could use assistance. Emerson warns to beware of holding too much good in our hands. We can only truly enjoy our freedom by spreading it around and helping others to experience the same. So we should volunteer, we could teach, you know, to lead by example. That's a thing that's been taught for, you know, you lead by example. Nowadays that doesn't happen a lot. And even a smile, except nowadays smiles are, you know, it's kind of hard to see smiles behind the mask. But you can tell it in the eyes. There was a song, I think, Smiling Eyes or whatever. But you can tell a person, if the person is smiling. Just, you know, be kind. Be gentle with yourself. Sometimes we beat ourselves up and actually for no good reason. So be gentle with yourself. Be kind to others. And knowing that you know, we are one. So I just invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And breathing in. I know that there's only one life. And that life is perfect. And that life is God's life, that life is my life, that life is your life, that life is our life. Right here and right now. And knowing that that life is expressed by each and every individual in this universe. Each and every living, breathing thing. Each animal. That we are all connected. And that as we are connected in this divine love, as we are connected by this golden thread that is woven in and around and through each of us, I invite us to lift each other up. Lift each other up, and I raise and I praise in the name of love. To love thy neighbor, whether it's your neighbor next door or your neighbor on the other side of the world. To love them, to honor them, to respect them, as you would like them to do unto you. And so in this time of fear and divisiveness, I know that we can be together. I know that we can be one. And I give thanks for the knowledge of this oneness, the knowledge that each of us can greet each other, to lift each other up, to raise, to praise, to honor. And so I give thanks for this moment in time. I give thanks for this day where we can live be free. And so I release, I let it go, and so it is. And I'd like to thank you for joining Northern Lights today, those of you on Zoom or on Facebook, or those of you that are in person. And if you'd like to donate, you can just go to our website and click on the little donate button, and it's northernlightspiritualcenter.com. And we will be here next Sunday. And Reverend Pamela, our founder, will be speaking next Sunday. She speaks on every third Sunday. And for those of you who would like to, that are on Zoom, you can hang around and for the post talk, not the post toasties, but the post talk. And I say, and I wishing each and every one of you a happy and blessed week. And so it is.